Hi, I'm Beth, and I'm back with another video. It's been several months since I've made one. The last one was on needle felting figurines, and I hope you enjoyed that. And this time I am going to show you a fingerless mitt that I've made, and I really like it. It's this mitt right here. Very cute design, but it's really quite easy. There's no thumb to make because we just have a hole right here for your thumb, and which makes it a lot easier if you won't have to contend with a thumb, and some folks have difficulty with that, and if you're a new knitter especially, this is quite easy. So I'm going to show you one in progress and talk about how to make this mitt. Okay, here is the mitt started, and here's the mitt finished on my hand. Should get a good view of that. I changed this pattern to fit a hand my size. I don't have real big hands, so I would call this a small woman's mitt. This pattern was written by someone else, and I wish I knew who it was. I'd give them credit. I've had it a long time, and I changed it just in the sizing because I wanted it to fit my hand. And so the directions I'll give you are my directions, and I'll put those in at the end. So you can make this mitt in this size, and if you want to increase it, basically add some stitches here. I think I took out 2 rows of stitches here and 2 rows of stitches here to make it a shorter mitt. I also took out stitches in along here in the width. I believe I think it called for 34. I have 30. 34 would make it a wider mitt than this. So you can make any changes like that you like to make it the size that you're looking for. But if you're looking for a small woman's hand, the directions I'm going to give you will make that mitt. Actually, I'll leave that in the picture. To start this mitt, I cast on 30 stitches, and I knitted 3 rows in what's called a moss stitch, and that's a knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, all the way across. And then when you turn the mitt to go the other way, back across, which is the wrong side, then you're going to do purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, all the way across. The third row, when you're back on the right side again, is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, all the way across. So it's 3 rows, knit 1, purl 1, all the way across, then purl 1, knit 1, all the way across. Third row is knit 1, purl 1, all the way across. And that makes this nice pattern here, this bumpy pattern with the knits and purls up opposite each other. There's a purl, there's a purl, there's a purl. So they alternate. Once you've done that, you're going to knit in stockinette stitch, and that we will do for 10 rows. And stockinette stitch is basically just knitting. If you were knitting in the round, it would be knitting, knitting, knitting all the way around. But to get stockinette stitch in a flat piece, because you have to turn the work over, you're going to knit this side, purl this side, knit this side, then purl the other side over and over again. So you would knit, purl, do that for 10 rows. So there would be 5 rows knitting and 5 rows purling until you have 10 total rows. This being your right side, the knitted side. I think I'll point out here, this isn't a teach you how to knit video. I'm assuming folks have, you know, some basic knowledge of knitting, so you understand what knits and purls are and what a stockinette stitch is. Basically, it's a very, very basic stitch. The moss stitch, I hadn't done. I mean, it's an easy concept, but I really hadn't done anything in the moss stitch before. And I don't know why, but it's very pretty and I like it, and it's not complicated. It looks more complicated than it is. So it's just knits and purls again. When we get up to here, after you've done your 10 rows of stockinette stitch, you're going to do a double moss stitch. It takes 4 rows of knitting to make the double moss stitch pattern, to make one pattern. So what we're going to do is do the 4 rows 5 times. I haven't gotten there yet in this piece, but this is 4 rows of double moss stitch done 5 times. So you'll see this in the directions that I'm going to put at the end of the video, so that you can print that out or write that out yourself. And so we have 2 rows of knit 1, purl 1, and then 2 rows of purl 1, knit 1. That's the pattern. So that's 4 rows, but we're going to do those 4 rows 5 times, so that'll be 20 rows of knitting. So after you finish that, you're going to go back into your stockinette stitch up here. And that's only 4 rows of that. And then you're going to go into your moss stitch pattern that you did down here for 3 rows again, just like you did here. And then you're going to bind it off in the moss stitch pattern. You can do it just in knitting if you want. I did it in the moss stitch, and I'm not sure how different that will actually make it look. So that's a choice, but I did it in moss stitch when I did my bind off. So that would complete this. You would it'd be off the needle at that point, and this long, but this wide. Okay, when you're getting ready to seam the piece and you've folded this with right sides together, you're going to sew a seam along here to hook it all together, leaving a hole for the thumb. This will be, right now this is right sides out, but when I seamed it, I had it this way, and my seaming was done with the loose pieces of yarn that were left over. There's a piece here and there's a piece here. So starting at the top, which would have been using this piece, I just sewed a seam with a tapestry needle just down through the stockinette stitch. I stopped when I got to the double moss stitch, and then I just kind of reinforced it going back, and you can see there's my thread where I cut the yarn. Then I took the piece of yarn that was hanging on this side, and I, with the tapestry needle, just sewed this up, leaving about 1.5 inches opening here for the thumb, and then reinforced a little by going back down, and my loose thread is right here that I cut. And that finishes the mitt. The direction. So I hope you enjoyed my video, and let me know if you have any questions, if I wasn't clear in any way about how to make this mitt. And the directions, like I said, are following. Thank you. Here are the materials needed for your knitted mitts, and also an explanation of the stitches. This is the yarn that I used for the knitted mitts. I think I bought this at Joann Fabric. This is the back side of the wrapper of the same yarn. And here are the remainder of the directions. As you can see, they're very short. There's not much involved here. I'll scroll back up so you can see what else is needed. The needles, the type of yarn, description of the stitches, and then the directions.